for the wash routine video. This is one of my more requested videos, and it's one that I've been wanting to do for a little while. So I've been thinking about how to do it. I was initially going to attempt to actually film my wash routine after a cycle, but the laundry room where I wash my cloth pads is in the basement. And there's one window in the laundry room and it's under our side deck. So regardless of what time of day it is, what lighting I bring in there, the video quality is dark. It's not really ideal for filming in my laundry room. So I decided, because the majority of my wash routine doesn't really revolve, like the parts that are important don't involve the washing machine, and I can do them anywhere in my house. So I figured I would film in my regular spot and do a mock wash routine. It's going to be exactly as it would be if I was washing the pads. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. I'll make sure to answer them for you. If you have any questions about where I've gotten any of the products, all of the items I am using today, and these are my go-to items that I've used for years, are purchased in Canada from well.ca. They have, this is not a plug at all, but they have free shipping. And regardless of how heavy the items are, it's shipped free and it's super fast. So I used to purchase my washing products from Target in Canada, but when they closed shop, I had to figure out where I could buy them, and I realized that a website I already shopped at stocked them all. So that's where I got the items you're going to see. So what I've done is I've just grabbed, I'm actually, today is the first day of my cycle. So what I do when I start my cycle, if you've seen my stash video, you'll know that I have a 4-drawer Sterilite container where I keep my 200 plus cloth pads. I have far more than any one person needs because it's a collection, and I enjoy buying and or making them. So I have a lot. So what I normally do at the beginning of my cycle is I just have this little box that I bought at Michael's. It says always choose happiness, and then inside it says good things are gonna happen. And I thought that was fitting for when you're menstruating. So I will go downstairs with this box. I have my cloth pads in my sewing studio because I'm often making more, or my washing and stuff is done down there. So that's where the Sterilite drawer is. But I'll go down there, I'll fill this box with 20 to 30 pads that I'd like to, or I think I'd like to wear during my cycle. And while I'm going through my cycle, I'll just raffle through and pick out what I'd like. The ones that don't get used get put back in the storage container in between cycles. The ones that do get used, this sits on the dresser in my bedroom, and beside it is my closet where I actually hang my wet bag. So they just sit there while I'm menstruating. I'll take one out, I'll wear it, and when I'm done with one, I don't rinse my pads. Let's grab a few of these out of here. Some knit, some OVV, just for a good measure. And then maybe a few more. Okay, so when I'm menstruating, I'll pick a pad, I'll put it on, I'll wear it, and then I'll take it off. And when I take it off, I don't rinse it, I don't spray anything on it, I don't put anything on it. All I do is I fold it in half, just like that, and I put them in my wet bag. And using this method, I have never had a stain. So it's not essential to put them in a wet bucket for me. Everybody has different pH balances, so sometimes, some people may need to soak their pads. Using this method, though, I've never had a stain. So this is the one that I have stuck with. So when I'm done my cycle, I've got this pile of folded pads. I take them downstairs to my laundry room, and I open them all up, and I actually set them on top of my washing machine because my washing machine is right beside my wash basin where I keep the bucket that I soak my pads in. So I open them all up and I set them on my washing machine. Then, let me pull all my products out here. this bucket. It is a, let's see here, a 4-gallon, just your standard mop bucket. But I like that it was clear. And I purchased this specifically for soaking my pads from Winners in Canada. I'm not sure if you guys have Winners or not, but this is it's Casabella is what it says on it. And it's a 4-gallon bucket. So what I do when I have all my pads down there, I take half a scoop. So the OxiClean that I use is just the standard Color Safe OxiClean. I take half a scoop. Okay, so this is what the container looks like. And I put it in. I then fill up the bottom quarter of, okay, so pretend I've got my powder inside. I then fill up to this line right here with hot water. And I put my hand in and I swish everything around so that it's nice and dissolved. It'll get foamy and there'll be bubbles and it'll be blue because that's the color of the OxiClean. And then I fill up to this second line right here with cold water. So the water when it's done is a temperature, you know, slightly cooler than room temperature. So once I have my soapy OxiClean water in this bucket, all I do is I take my pads, I flip them over, and I push them down so they start to absorb water because they'll try to float at the top. So you just kind of push them in, and I plop them all in the bucket. So I normally do this, you know, at some point after lunch in the afternoon or evening. And then I leave this bucket sitting in my wash basin in my laundry room overnight. And then the next morning, I normally, you know, do this on a weekday. So I'll drive my daughter to school, I'll get home, I'll go downstairs. The water will still be at the same level, but the bubbles will have all dissolved and the water will be a rusty brown color. You know, if you're using specifically just cloth pads during your cycle, not cups, you know, the blood will come out in the water. So what I do is I hold the pads down with one hand and I just dump the water out. And while I'm dumping, I just, oh, sorry, I bumped the camera. I just squish the pads down a bit to get some of the excess water out. So when I pull a pad out of this bucket, sometimes I pull it out and the stains are completely gone. There's nothing on them. Sometimes I'll pull it out, especially on a blue pad, you might still have a shadow stain or there might still be a full-on stain. So what I do at that point, depending on my mood, I sometimes will use this Ecover stain remover. It's got a bristle brush top, which is great for scrubbing really set-in stains. But I don't generally tend to have really set-in stains. I just normally have a little bit of shadow staining when I pull them out of the soak. So what I do at that point is I've got this little cup of all the different stain sticks I have. So this is a Soapworks stain stick, and I make these little cotton straps, just with a little bit of Velcro and cotton to put on them because these get super slippery when you're scrubbing your pads. So that's a Soapworks stain stick. This is a Bunch of Farmers. This one, as you can probably see, used to be very long. They're about this long when you first get them. This is my favorite, the Bunch of Farmers. I've got Fells Napa, or no, I think this is Zote, and this is the Fells Napa. I've got the actual bars downstairs. I just cut chunks off of them. And then this pink one here is from Pussy Willow. So I just keep these in the laundry room in this little cup to hold them. And I grab one out when I pull a pad out of the soap, and I just rub it on. Sometimes what I also do, and I've never seen anybody do this, and I don't even know how I started doing it, but what I'll do is your pad's going to be wet, obviously, after you dump the water. So what I'll do is I'll rub a bit of this on, and then if I feel like it's not going to be sufficient to get the stain out, once this end is wet from rubbing it against a wet pad, I'll dip it into the OxiClean and get some of the OxiClean crystals, and then I'll rub the OxiClean crystals with this stain stick onto the pad. And the friction with the crystals and this is wonderful for getting set-in stains out. It gives you a bit of grit. And I've never stripped the color or caused any damage to my pads doing this. You don't have to work very hard at it. These are meant to dissolve in water anyway. So it just gives you a bit of grit and a little bit of extra oxygen cleaner on the stain when you pop these in the wash. So once I've scrubbed any ones that I feel need to be scrubbed, I obviously get through all of them and I throw them all in my washing machine and wash them as I would all of my other clothing. I do wash them on their own, just loose. I don't put them in a washing bag or anything like that. Pardon me. And I wash them on a cool wash setting with, this is my go-to detergent. This is Ecover, the lavender scented laundry detergent. And I swear by this. I have an HE washing machine, so I do need to use specific types of laundry detergent. And this is fantastic. It's concentrated. The caps are quite small. I use one cap. You do not, I actually use half a cap when I'm washing pads because it's only half a load really. But you do not need very much of it. It lasts forever and it smells, oh my God. The scent, I wish you could smell it because I could smell it from here. The scent is Lavender Fields and it's amazing. And it's one of those laundry detergents where the scent stays. Because they make this with essential oils, the scent lasts quite a long time. Like I love it when I wash my PJs in it, and then, even, a week after they've been washed or 2 weeks after they've been washed, I take them out of the drawer and I put them on and I can still smell it. It's awesome. So this is the laundry detergent that I swear by. I use this for my cloth pads and my main laundry, my clothing, my bedding, even towels. And then my daughter's laundry, because she has sensitive skin, I use this Sweet Pea Method detergent for her, which is made to be gentle, and that also smells amazing. And I also sometimes use the Sweet Pea on my pads, but this is generally my go-to. Sometimes I'll also throw a little bit of oxygen brightener in the wash. It really just depends on my mood. Or sometimes I also use this. This is the Nellie's All Natural Oxygen Brightener. It's a solid white powder. I find it doesn't work quite as well as OxiClean, but it does do a good job, and I actually use this with my towels a lot. I think there's gotta be baking soda in it, because sometimes I put baking soda in with my towels if they get that like musty towely smell, and this works really well for washing towels as well, but sometimes it goes in with the pads. So I washed my pads on a standard wash cycle. I think it's about 37 minutes long. I don't pre-soak them. I don't give them an extra rinse. I just wash them on cool with my Ecover laundry detergent. When they're done, this is also something that, the masses are divided on. I throw mine in the dryer. I throw them in the dryer of course, with no bounce sheets, no fabric softener, because that will cause a film on your pads and prevent them from being absorbent. So you definitely don't want to use any type of fabric softeners, none of those scent crystals, nothing other than laundry detergent to clean your cloth pads. So what I do is I take them all and I throw them in the washer and I put them on standard heat. I don't turn the heat down. I don't worry about the snaps melting, or the WinPro having issues. I have been using cloth pads for a very long time. I have always put them in the dryer and I have never had issues, and some of these cloth pads have been around for years now. So that's the method that works best for me. One thing I can note is that you never want to put your cloth pads into the dryer with heavy items, because like if you use any of those dryer balls, the plastic ones or the yarn wool ones, you don't want to put them in there, because when the snaps get warm, if there's anything heavy, that is what would damage your snaps. Like say a dryer ball were to land on the male snap. You see how it's protruded? I'm not sure if I'm doing this right because the camera is so high up. I'm trying to get a good shot for you today. But because this protrudes out, if a dryer ball were to land right on top of this when it was warm, that could smuck it for sure. So because I don't wash these with anything else and I don't dry them with anything else, I haven't actually had an issue with any snaps melting, any pads ripping, or any fabrics being damaged. Nothing's happened. So I wash them. They come out of the dryer for the most part completely dry. Sorry, camera hiccup. If it's something really thick, like I've got this Maui Girl Creations pad and it is pretty plush, I find these types of pads might still be wet after I take them out of the dryer. I normally dry them for about 30 minutes. If that's the case, I have one of the hanging racks from IKEA to hang laundry, and I'll just clip this up on my hanging rack and I'll let it hang out there overnight before putting it away. The hanging rack hangs right over top of my sterilize container, so they're right there while I'm putting the pads away. So I take them in to my studio, I put them all away in the right spot, and that is the end of my wash routine. It's pretty simple. It doesn't take very long. Funny enough, I hate doing laundry, but I actually enjoy washing my cloth pads. I don't know why that is. Like, I think maybe it's because it's so cool to be able to watch the stains disappear, especially with something that you've been taught your whole life is the worst staining ever, blood stains. And I'm able to take these gorgeous pads and bring them back to their pre-cycled state. So that is my wash routine. I'm also going to go really quickly and grab my menstrual cup and my sea sponges because I think, that should be included because that's something that's part of my wash routine. I will wash my menstrual cup in between uses during my cycle. I'll wash my sea sponge tampons in between uses during my cycle. And at the end, I sterilize both. So give me a second and I'll go and grab those and we'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. So I went and grabbed the items that I also use during my cycle, and we'll discuss how I clean and take care of those. So one item that I really enjoy using is sea sponge tampons. I have many of them purchased from different sources, and honestly, these are by far, I've found, the most comfortable and easy internal protection. They feel, it's running away. They feel kind of rough when they're dry, but when they're wet, they're so soft and squishy and comfortable. You do not feel them at all. Even a big one, this is for an extra heavy and it's quite large. You'll see it's the size of my hand. When it's wet, I can squish it down to the size of a small marble and insert it, and then it expands inside my vaginal canal and absorbs the liquid, or menstrual fluid in this case. It's fantastic. So all of these sea sponge tampons are about, they've been used 6 or 7 times, and they're still in great condition if you take good care of them, and they're not super soft, because what I found is the softer it is when squished, when dry, the less time it lasts. If they're not as dense and firm, they will dissolve or degrade faster than if they were a super dense sponge. So I have different ones. I use them at different points in my cycle. And the way that I use them is when I insert one, I wet it with room temperature, lukewarm water. I squish as much water out of it as I can, and then I insert it. And it stays up there until it's full. Once I notice it starts to leak or I start to spot, I remove the sea sponge tampon and I rinse it in my bathroom sink. And I think one of the things that a lot of people get on about with cloth pads and interlabial pads and now sea sponge tampons as well is that you need to rinse them in cold water. This is not the case When you're removing this immediately and washing it, it's actually better to wash it in warm water, especially if this has blood clots or any mucus on it. Washing it in cool water will firm that up and will make it almost impossible to get off. They'll be a little bit slimy. Generally, the spot that's touching your cervix will have a blood clot on it and be a little slimy. So you're going to want to rinse it in warm water. Not hot, but warm water. It's going to rinse so much quicker and cleaner. And C-sponge tampons aren't absorbent the way cloth fibers are. So they're not going to stain the way a cloth pad would. So you don't need to be concerned. And even with cloth pads, if you're somebody that likes to rinse your cloth pads after, if you're rinsing them immediately after removing them, you can rinse them in warm water. The blood temperature after being against your body is warm. It's going to work best to rinse them in warm water initially. The only time you do not want to rinse them in warm water is if you're rinsing after they've been sitting around for a few weeks, or a few days, I should say. Or at the end of the week that you have your cycle. At that point, those stains are dry, and you do not want to rinse them in warm water because it will set the stain, because blood is a protein. But when it's still wet, when the blood on your pad is still wet, you can rinse it in warm water, and it'll work so much better than rinsing it in cold water. I'm also in Canada. Here in the wintertime, the water is cold. People's pipes freeze. Like, the water is solid ice. And it's like 1 degree away from being a solid state. You do not rinse your items with water that cold. Honestly, it's so much easier to rinse them with room temperature. And that's what I do with my cloth pads. And I've never had a stain set in. So, and the same goes with these guys. Like, they're not stained and they've been used many, many, many times. Initially I started rinsing them with cold water, and then I was like, this isn't working very well. Let me think about it. And I'm just like, you know what? They should be rinsed. I think it would be better to rinse them warm. And that's what I've done. And I've had no issues. So after I've rinsed, sometimes I'll reinsert. Other times I'll put them to the side. I have a little bag that I put used ones in, and a little wet bag. And at the end of my cycle, I will soak these in a salt water bath, and that doesn't damage the sponge, and it also cleans it. And that's how I take care of my sea sponges. Now, in terms of my cups, sometimes I use more than one cup during my cycle, and sometimes I just use my Ruby cup, which seems to be my unicorn, the cup that just always opens and never leaks and works really well. So regardless of what cup I've used, I will rinse it throughout my cycle with this Diva wash. And the reason I use this, I have a Diva cup. I don't use it a heck of a lot. It's quite long and I find it leaks often for me. But I do like the Diva wash because it's pH balanced and I can buy it anywhere. They sell it at Walmart, they sell it at drugstores. So I have this, and one bottle will last you forever. What I do is I put a little bit inside of the cup, and then I kind of squish the cup and rinse it around, make sure it gets right down in there, and I squish it through the air release holes, and then I'll take it outside and I'll rub the outside of it and I'll rinse it off. And sometimes after I do that, I will reinsert, or I will set it to the side if I don't feel like wearing it. And at the end of my cycle, this is something else that I'm not familiar with anybody doing. Somebody else might be doing it, but just not anybody that I know. What I use to sterilize my cups, and I actually will sterilize all of my cups when I do this. I generally just like to, make sure that they're not retaining any bacteria, and just that they're nice and clean. So I actually use, funny enough, a steam sterilizer that's made for baby bottles. I bought this at Target before Target closed, but you can also get them at Walmart. You'll see the inside of this one has these little holders, and they're made for baby bottle nipples. Well, guess what's a super close in size to a baby bottle nipple? Menstrual cups. So they actually, what I can do in these little holders is sit my cups right inside of them. So what you do, there'll be directions if you decide to purchase one of these, but what you do is I put half a cup of water underneath this basin in the lower part, and then this just sits on top. You make sure if you've got a cup like this that you completely open it up, and you just set it in that holder. I can fit all of my menstrual cups in this in one go. You put your lid on and you pop this in the microwave for 5 minutes. When it comes out, it's hot, so I normally let it sit for a couple minutes before opening it, and then you open them up, and there you go, boom, every menstrual cup you have, even if you've got 10 of them, all sanitized at once. So I absolutely love this method. I thought of it when I was steam sterilizing my menstrual cups one by one. And I remembered when my daughter was young that I had one of these guys, and I'm like, that would actually work really well. So I went and picked one up, and it just hangs out under my sink until I need to use it. So I think that is everything. That is my wash routine. That's how I clean all of my cloth pads. That's how I clean my menstrual cups. That's how I clean my sea sponge tampons. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you all have a fantastic day. Bye.